had an agent reach out to me recently. He DM'd me on Instagram and said the following. I've been in the business for 2 or 3 years. Last year, I did 40 plus transactions. This year, I only did 20. I feel like I don't even know how to do this business. What he's experiencing is based on the context of the environment, right? So it's not as though he doesn't know how to do the business. He was just only working one side of the business because all of those 40 transactions were on the buy side. A year ago, let's say, or 18 months ago, it was dramatically different than what it is today, due primarily to the cost of money. So if I'm working strictly with buyers and we go from 3% to upwards of 7-8% in terms of mortgages, that's going to dramatically shrink the pool of prospective buyers. That's why we went from 6 million transactions to this year in 2023, about 4 million, 4.2 million plus, right? That's a huge difference, right, in transaction volume. That makes sense as to why he would drop down to 20 transactions, because a lot of buyers that he had under contract, their deals fell through, due to financing. Lots of buyers he was working with perhaps were approved, and then when things changed, they were no longer approved. Or from a psychological perspective, they told themselves that they're just going to wait, right, until rates come down and things improve. What he doesn't have is a specialized knowledge on working with sellers. And that specialized knowledge is comprised of a few things. The first is knowing what to say and how to say it in terms of setting appointments. That is a very specialized knowledge that you can't learn in school, right? The second form of specialized knowledge is how to pre-qualify those appointments to ensure that with a high degree of probability, their level of motivation is not only very high, but also when you meet with them, they're probably going to sign a contract. The third form of specialized knowledge that's required is how to present to those sellers and have them choose you versus somebody else as far as who's going to input the property in the multiple listing service. The fourth, I think we're on, form of specialized knowledge is handling objections, right? Because there will be objections. How much is your commission? I've never heard of your company. What are you going to do to market my home? My sister's cousin's brother said that they could do it for less. So I need to be skilled, right, on how to handle those objections. And then the next skill that's required is how to get price adjustments. Agents over the last 12 months have had to get adjustments, and they haven't had to do that in a long time. All of those things are skills, right? Also, we need the skill of being able to have systems and standard operating procedures and SOPs in place, so that way we can sell listings in high volume. The marketplace shifting and changing exposed the fact for him that he was overly committed to only working with buyers. And there's a saying in the military, like 1 is none and 2 is 1. So if I have 1 of something, I have nothing, but I have 2 of something, I have, if 1 goes away, then I still have something. What I also believe is true is that with a super high degree of probability in the next 3 or 4 years, not the next 1 or 2 years, the next 3 or 4, because there will be appeals and things of that nature, that buyer's agents are going to have to negotiate a portion, if not all, of their fee, right, due to these commission lawsuits. And it's not something they've ever had to do before. So the way that we do business is going to fundamentally change, or has a good chance of fundamentally changing. And the last time it fundamentally changed was with the internet. And, here we are 25, 30 years later, and there's a potential for a very big fundamental change in the way we do business. And the models that are currently in existence, right? Because most agents are very buyer heavy. If you look at their personal production, it's like 60, 70% buyers. And brokerage firms are very buyer heavy, because the model that has come to the surface based on the environment the way it is right now is we pay a lot of money for online leads. We're increasingly taking larger referral fees, but we pay a lot of money for online leads. And then we give those leads to either agents or myself to do the buyer sides, because I'm guaranteed a 2 to 3% commission on the buyer sides. If that goes away and I'm no longer guaranteed somewhere around 2 to 3%, then that model doesn't work anymore. Leaders anticipate and everybody else reacts. And what I would suggest or propose is the same thing I suggested to this agent, is that what you should be doing right now is learning how to list property in high volume and become a listing machine. So the specialized knowledge that's required to list property in high volume in terms of the skill sets and what to say and how to say it, the intellectual intelligence, the emotional intelligence, being able to handle objections, being able to close. Also sources of where to go to find motivated, qualified sellers, right? That is going to be a skill set. It's always been valuable. There's sayings that, like, if you can't list, you can't last, sort of thing. It's going to become increasingly more valuable should the fundamental way we do business change. And if you want to insulate yourself, I would be learning those skills now and really doubling down on them, stacking time on them, like that particular form of specialized knowledge. You know, if it does happen, great, I'm prepared. If it doesn't happen, I'm still prepared. If what I'm currently doing, let's say 3 to 5 years from now, if I put it through the lens of, hey, the way we do business could fundamentally change, would my life, and specifically in business, be better or worse? That's a very good question to ask yourself as far as making decisions on what's good for the long term. And that's really what judgment is what's good for the long term. With everything that's changing in the industry, I have to be very, very thoughtful on what I choose to put my time on top of, because that's going to make a huge impact long term on the outcomes that I produce. So if you need help with that particular skill set, reach out to your boy. I hope that this perspective is helpful or useful. Be sure to stay tuned. Watch the next video. Where were you when my home was on the market for sale? You know, we're not sure what we're going to do next. Can't you just tell me over the phone what you're going to do differently from my previous agent?